Hi everybody, it's been quite a while since I've done a YouTube video, and today we are doing a very special video. I want you to meet my friend Lisa Richey, and she is the owner of the American Academy of Etiquette, and she is an expert on afternoon tea. So we are going to learn all about what kind of tea to serve, how to drink the tea, what foods are served, what utensils are to be used, and this is going to be a really fun day, and I think there's been such a resurgence in afternoon tea that everyone is going to really want to know about all of this. So Lisa, I guess my first question is about the tea, because that's the most important thing. What kind of tea do you serve at an afternoon tea, or is there a certain kind?
You know, it depends, and I think when you have people over for afternoon tea, I think it's always a good idea to offer an assortment. You certainly want to offer something that has the caffeine, because tea, tea, unlike coffee, can give you both, it can give you a lot of spirit, or it can actually be a relaxing moment. You know, whereas coffee, you usually drink that for a little bit of a jolt.
In the morning.
In the morning.
You need to
yeah, that's what I mean.
Right.
And unfortunately, I like both. And I think you do as well. But for an afternoon tea, I think it's important to provide both a caffeinated version and also something that's decaf. And also, that can be a chamomile, it can be a mint, it can be any type of herbal tea, so that everybody has a choice and they can choose what they like.
So would you ever use a tea, like the box that they use in restaurants sometimes when you have afternoon tea?
You can, for an afternoon tea, and you can tell this is absolutely beautiful. And if you've gone to this kind of trouble, I actually prefer loose tea.
Okay.
And that's when you'll need the strainers, and I'm going to demonstrate all of that today. And there's certain ways that you slice the lemon for those that just want lemon. But you can provide tea bags as well, and you have some beautiful dishes here. So what I would do is maybe provide an assortment on a dish, or if you have the box, that works as well.
Okay. Well, and what do you serve the tea in?
You actually use a kettle for the kitchen, of course, to keep the water boiling. And when you have a lot of people over for tea, you might need multiple kettles. Today, we just need one kettle. It's just going to be the two of us having tea. So you would prepare your tea pots in the kitchen with your tea kettle and the boiling water and your loose tea, and then you would bring out the teapots. And I've had several afternoon teas at my home over the years, and you can put little cards in front of them noting that this is an herbal blend, or this is chamomile, or this is black tea. So they know. I will go ahead and share with you, when I'm having scones and finger sandwiches, I prefer black tea. And I actually like a little milk and a little sugar in my tea. I love the flavors together. So today we're going to have black tea.
Okay, well, I'm really excited to get started, but I do have a few more questions.
Oh, absolutely.
So are there any essential elements that you think are important as far as food goes?
Well, of course, here's my belief. I think today we all really appreciate the human connection. And I think everyone right now should think of opportunities they can invite friends over for tea. And maybe you don't like to cook, and that's perfectly fine. If it's as simple as providing a plate of cookies, some teacups, and a teapot, that's great. And have people over. Now, if you want to go to and have a formal afternoon tea like what we have here, you would have finger sandwiches, scones. We pronounce it scones here in the U.S., but it's actually pronounced scones. Think of your lawn outside, it's actually pronounced scone. And then you actually can have little mini treats, like you can see here on the top tier. And cookies, muffins, those are your traditional afternoon tea types of food.
Well, I'm certainly ready to dig in, but a couple of more questions. Why a teacup instead of a mug?
Tea is traditionally served in a teacup with a saucer. And I'll demonstrate in a few minutes how to hold a teacup, where to put the spoon.
I have no idea.
Yes, and another, I will tell you this, another common faux pas with afternoon tea, what we are having here is called afternoon tea. It is not high tea. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to a high tea. And actually, a high tea was created in the Industrial Revolution, and it was served to the workers because they were hungry late in the afternoon. And that was served on high tables.
So you mentioned afternoon tea and you mentioned high tea, but are there any other kinds of teas?
Yes, there's a cream tea. And when you see that on the menu, it's actually a scone, clotted cream, and a cup of tea. It's very simple. A royal tea, that's R-O-Y-A-L T, T-E-A, is served with champagne. So that's the difference. You have, this is a formal afternoon tea. You have cream tea, which is just a scone and clotted cream and a cup of tea. And then you have royal tea, which is all of this with a glass of champagne.
And so would that be served later in the day, or would it still be served in the afternoon, only the addition is the champagne?
The addition is the champagne. And traditionally, afternoon tea is served after 3 o'clock. Many like to have it as late as 4. That's the traditional time. And of course, champagne is always a good idea.
Always,
Always a good
definitely.
idea.
Yes. Well, let me think if I have any more questions. Why don't we have some tea?
Let's have tea. Let's have a cup of tea. Like we said, we're having afternoon tea, and I prefer black tea with my savories and my sweets. And so we boiled water, and there's about 4 to 5 cups of water here. And I normally put a heaping teaspoon per cup for each person.
At least 2.
And yes, and the steeping is really personal. If you like your tea super strong, or if you like it a little bit on the weaker side, I kind of in the middle here, I steeped for about 4 minutes. And the first thing you do with afternoon tea, of course, getting on to the place setting, you can set the place setting as if you're setting it for lunch or dinner. The fork is on the left, the knife and spoon are on the right-hand side. The napkin is either in the center of the plate or to the left of the place setting. And you go ahead before tea, as soon as you sit down, you put the napkin in your lap. And the fold of the napkin goes toward your waist.
Oh no.
You know, I know. The fold of the napkin like this. And there's a reason why. The reason why, it gives you the opportunity just to pick up one corner like this and use just the corner of the napkin.
Okay, I did not know that.
And also a little bit more about the napkin. When you excuse yourself during the meal, you don't need to tell anyone where you're going. You just simply say, "Excuse me," and you leave the napkin in your chair. And of course, when you return, you just put the napkin back in your lap. And the napkin does not go on the table until the very end of the meal. At the very end of the meal, and that's when you're pushing back your chair and you're actually leaving the table, you put it to the left side of your place setting. You don't need to refold it. And while you're talking during afternoon tea, let's say we have finished our tea sandwiches and our scones, we leave the plate where it is placed here. You don't push your plates away or start stacking them for the hostess or the waitstaff. You leave everything where it is.
Well, that's something, even with a dinner party, that drives me crazy, because I would just prefer to do everything my way and take the dishes and wash them in the kitchen and just do everything the way that I like it done. So I think that's kind of a hint for being a good guest anywhere.
Yes.
Is let the hostess take care of everything. And if you want to offer and she accepts, I think that's great. But if not, let her do it.
Let her do. I know most women or hostesses like to manage their own kitchen.
Yes.
And if it is nice to offer one time, may I help you? And maybe you say yes, if you wouldn't mind taking the butter dish, or if you need some assistance, it's okay.
But you entertain.
But you entertain.
To clean up.
Yes, exactly. And we all have been there, and we've all stayed up to midnight cleaning up the tables after a dinner party. It's what we expect.
Sure.
Yes.
That's why we have husbands.
No, I know. That's true. That's true.
Okay, so will you make some tea for us?
Yes. This is a black tea, like I've said, and it has a fruity blend.
Do you want to show this one?
Yes, this is something I love. Mirage Frères in in Paris, and this is where the tea came from, and it just, I wish you could smell through the camera. It smells really wonderful. Nice. And then with tea, you take the tea strainer, you place it over your tea cup, and then it's 2 fingers on top, and you simply pour, and of course this captures the leaves in the tea. And you never want to fill it to the top. So these are a nice size teacup, so that's enough. You know, it's
not lift mine for you.
No, I'm actually going to walk around and I'm going to pour your tea.
So I would not pour my own tea.
No, well you can. It's a little heavy to pass. And this is very hot.
Very hot, yes.
And you know, this brings up a good point. If you're invited over to someone's home for afternoon tea and the hostess asks you to serve tea, it's actually an honor to be asked to serve tea or to pour tea. So it's a nice thing when the hostess asks you that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you have to brush up on your tea pouring skills.
And at this point, of course, before you pour, I would ask Suzanne, you know, her preference, the black tea, the chamomile tea, the mint tea, what do you like? And I'm going to go over milk in first, milk in last at this point. I like I mentioned earlier, I like sugar and milk in my tea. And the way to do that, you always serve tea with sugar cubes. And 1 is usually enough. And you can put the serving spoon back in the sugar dish. And there's a lot of talk in the world of tea, milk in first or milk in last. And I believe that milk goes in last because you need to see how much milk you need in your tea.
And with my coffee, I put my milk in first because I know what lightness I like my coffee to be.
Oh, okay. I see. So, and also one other point with when you serve afternoon tea, you actually serve tea with milk, not cream. So I do like both. And I'm going to show you how to stir here. So that's the milk. And I'm going to take a spoon from my place setting, and you stir 12 to 6, 12 to 6, 12 to 6 quietly. So again, that's 12 to 6, 12 to 6, 12 to 6. And here's the thing, one little flick to get, you see the little last bit of tea that was sitting on the
clang on
you
the
don't
side
clang on the
your
side,
cup.
And you put the spoon behind the teacup.
Okay, let me try.
Yes, go ahead and try.
Right. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm taking 1 sugar cube.
Well, if you like it super sweet, go ahead.
And I'll try it with
Yeah.
1. And then a little bit of milk. And then 12
to 6, so it's back and forth, back and forth. Quietly. Yes. And then it goes behind the teacup. That's what you need to know.
I can't wait to taste.
Yes, let's taste. Isn't that delicious?
Do this every day.
I know.
To do this every
you know, and one thing that I love to do when we get the magazine in on a Saturday, and if you have a little bit of quiet time, is to take a magazine, make a tea tray, maybe just have a cup of tea and a little piece of chocolate. And it's a really nice thing to do for yourself.
That is nice. So speaking of, let's talk a little bit about the food we have here. And we talked about making it easy because we're all so busy, and if we want to take the time to do something like this and add this graciousness to our lives, we probably don't have time to cook everything. So what we have here, would you hand me those so I can show them? These are little cucumber sandwiches, and they took me all of 10 minutes to put together. So it's a little piece of white bread, and I just used the Pepperidge Farm bread that is spread with Boursin cheese, cucumbers, and a little bit of smoked salmon. That's really quick and easy. You could leave the smoked salmon off. And then the pimento cheese sandwiches are homemade. Lisa made the cherry scones, and everything else is from Whole Foods or the grocery store. And I think that it looks delicious and beautiful, and we didn't have to go to a lot of trouble, and we're going to have a nice afternoon tea. So don't not do afternoon tea because you're afraid it's too much work. you really can just make it anything you have time for. The point is, like Lisa said, the community, just adding some ritual into your life that's beautiful, and it's just part of living a beautiful life. So I'm so excited to taste all of this, and Lisa, thank you so much. I've learned a lot. I hope you all have learned a lot, and that you'll have afternoon tea yourselves. And if you do, please tag us. Please post your pictures on Instagram. We would love to see your afternoon tea.